Welcome back, everybody, to Versus Games here in Oveido, Florida. We have just gotten through the halfway point of these Swiss rounds, but we're getting set for round 4 here. I'm Joe Carlino, and I'm joined by Caden Owens. Caden, how are you doing today?
Hello. Good enough. Good enough. We don't talk about the run today. We don't talk about the run, but well, I am here.
I may want to talk about the run today. How was your run today?
It was pretty unlucky. There was a lot of stuff that happened where it was like rolls didn't go in my favor. Plus, like, some own misplays because I'm a little rusty, especially on cart. Did
you have any scale shot misses?
Heat wave misses.
Heat wave misses, eh?
Heat wave misses I did have.
Okay, a different type of 90% accurate move that misses.
Right? Different type of one, but it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. But Nate, now you're joining the casting team. So
yes.
You're getting in for a really fun matchup here because we've got Adrian Herdia versus Chris Dawson. This is going to be a really fun matchup here.
Oh, I think so, too. They have a lot of interesting pieces, especially... Are we allowed to talk about the pieces they have yet, or?
So we can actually talk a little bit about Regulation H. Like, what are you looking most forward to? Are you going to any events coming up?
I'm going to Pittsburgh.
You're going to the Pittsburgh Regional Championships?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that should be fun. You get to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah. And how funny is it that, and I mean, this is from my background of NFL, the first event of Regulation H in 2025 and 2026, they started in a city that an AFC North team plays in. Last year it was Baltimore with the Ravens. This year it's Pittsburgh.
With the Steelers, yeah. I remember last time they did a tournament in Pittsburgh, I think the Steelers game was happening that day too, or that weekend.
I think it was because I was at that Pittsburgh championship, 6-3 finish.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But we're gonna get into it, guys. We do have Adrian Herdia and Chris Dawson here, and they have some very interesting teams here. And Caden, that's male Indeedee.
Oh yeah, it's male Indeedee on both sides. One thing that's important to note is I believe this is mono psychic types. So any dark types that Adrian has, he cannot touch. So Dark Sneasler and Mirko are just not touched by his Indeedee at all.
They are not, and we do see here is Adrian's team. He has that Psychic Seed on the Sneasler here to activate its Unburden with his own Indeedee, but on Adrian's side, you see that Terra Blast fighting. That is good for the King Gambit matchups and potentially Incineroar matchups. Alongside, that's, Life Orb on the Sinistra here. You don't really see Life Orb on Sinistra.
You really don't. A lot of the Sinistras are mainly like Rage Powder and Trick Room or some sort of supportive set. But he decided to opt for a more offensive set with Life Orb, which is interesting because actually the chip that you get from Life Orb happens after Matcha Gacha proc, I'm pretty sure. So he can actually attack and then kind of ignore the issue that Life Orb comes with.
He can, and then also, are my eyes playing tricks on me, or is that a Cleavor?
That is a Cleavor. It's an interesting Pokemon. Stoneaxe is going to set up the Stealth Rocks. So his hyper offense style is a little harder to switch into and pivot. Just because I think Incin is really good into this team, right? It matches up well against Indeedee, Sneasler to an extent, Angle Dango, and Sinistra. But with Rocks, it's hard to pivot it like it likes to do.
And also on the side of Adrian, the Murkrow does not have access to Haze. Now, while Haze would remove the Psychic Seed special defense boost, it would also remove the attack drop, and suddenly a Sneasler close combat into Incineroar would have a shot at being a one-hit knockout.
Sure, but he's opting for Taunt and Sunny Day. Sunny Day, I'm not 100% sure, but Taunt is very strong in this format.
That is true, and when we look at Chris Dawson's side, he does have the Whimsicott with the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and it was kind of a standard Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Life Orb, Terra Normal, Blood Moon, Earth Power, Protect, Hyper Voice, the Electabuzz here, Terra Dragon. I can't remember seeing a Terra Dragon Electabuzz in a while.
It's been a minute. I think early format, a lot of them were trending towards Dragon just because it does really well in the Fire, Water, Grass cores. But I feel like a lot of comps started to pivot away from that. This is kind of a callback more to the early format where it helps a lot against like Volcarona balance and things of that nature.
And then we also you did identify that both our trainers have the Indeedee male, and on Chris's side, you did identify it is just mono psychic. So Murkrow doesn't want to. Murkrow can just take it head on. Sneasler, if it terastallizes, it can take it head on. But there's a Hisuian Typhlosion on the side of Chris's team. And how many times have you faced Tailwind, Terrifier, Eruption from Hisuian Typhlosion?
Oh yeah, that's over on ladder. That's always going to be a comp for sure.
Yeah, it's a very powerful combination, but at the same time, it can be exploitable depending on the situation.
Yeah, it's very tricky. What I will say is nice about his team is with Psychic Terrain, one of Typhlosion Heatsuite's main weaknesses is priority, especially Sucker Punch from like Gambit, for example. But with the Psychic Terrain, it's a little less susceptible to that.
We're going to get into it, guys. Round 4 is about to begin between Adrian Herdia and Chris Dawson. Who will advance? We're going to get into game 1 here. Chris leading with his Male Indeedee and Sneasler, and it's Cleavor and Murkrow for Adrian.
This is interesting. I don't know my Cleavor calcs, so I don't know what it lives. I don't know if it lives Psychic. I don't know if it lives Expanding Force. But I will say I do think the advantage is a little bit in Adrian's side here. Only because he's able to get tailwind pressure and he's able to get his rocks up fairly safely. It seems like that's what he's going for.
And it's also important to note here that the Sneasler does not have access to Fake Out on Chris's side. By Murkrow being a flying type, it would still be susceptible to a Fake Out on this turn.
It would, but luckily he doesn't have it. It's just 3 attacks with Psychic Seed. Pretty common set, especially paired with Indeedee's Male.
We're going to see a Tailwind come out from this Murkrow here, doubling the speed of Cleavor and Murkrow for the next 4 turns. A Dire Claw comes out into the Murkrow here, well over 50%. No status condition, but the Stone Axe brings it down to the Focus Sash here, and more importantly, sets up the Stealth Rocks, which will affect the Typhlosion if it's in the back.
Yeah, Typhlosion coming in at about 75% is going to mess with his calcs quite a bit.
And we're going to see the Expanding Force do a huge amount of damage into the Cleavor, but it will not knock out the Cleavor here. Very interesting for the Indeedee that it almost knocks out that Cleavor in one hit despite the Stone Axe connecting, bringing it down to its Focus Sash.
Yeah, this is an interesting board state because the Indeedee can't really touch the Murkrow. So if Chris wants to get it off the board, he has to swing it into a Sneasler. But if he swings it into a Sneasler, then the Cleavor gets another attack on. So it's going to be a choice of how they want to preserve their resources here.
It would be very interesting because the Indeedee on Chris's side does have access to that Protect, which it goes for here, trying to preserve itself for one final turn. As Sneasler going for the Dire Claw into the Cleavor and knocking it out.
It's going to be the Pokemon advantage for Chris here. Curious to see what this Murkrow goes for.
Murkrow goes for the foul play into the Indeedee. So Indeedee protects itself for this turn and allows the Sneasler on Chris's side to be the fastest Pokemon on the field for this turn.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky because even though that Adrian has Tailwind due to Sneasler's Unburden ability being procced by the Psychic Seed, it's still just faster than his entire team, so it's a little tricky for him here.
And now, because Chris still has that Terrassalization in his back pocket here, actually both trainers had the Terrassalization in their back pocket here, with Adrian having that Terra Fighting, which would be super
he's going
effective.
For the read.
It would be super effective if Sneasler decides to Terrasalize into a Dark Terra, but it would simultaneously turn Indeedee weak to the Expanding Force from Chris's Indeedee.
It would, although there's a chance that Chris's Indeedee might not go for it. I could see him going for maybe a Helping Hand here.
I mean, it's very possible, and we're going to see the Expanding Force be moved on Adrian's side after Murkrow switches out into the Sneasler on Adrian's side here, as the Psychic Seed will activate, give it a special defense boost for this turn. And in comes that Terrassalization on Chris's side, and it will go into the Sneasler, turning off its weakness to this Expanding Force.
Yeah, now it's completely immune, unless he decided to read it and go for Terrifying Terra Blast.
And we're going to see a it's going to be Dire Claw into the Sneasler on Adrian's side. No status condition on that Dire Claw. That is, I think, 3 Dire Claws, even though one was a knockout into that Cleavor, but 2 Dire Claws, no status condition.
Yeah, no status at all, losing all of his 50-50s there. This is a good offensive position for Adrian because now he can close combat into the enemy Sneasler. That's super effective. That should be a clean one-hit KO. Just curious to see if Chris is going to be able to prevent that.
And Chris is down to his Whimsicott and Sneasler. Meanwhile, it is Sneasler and the Indeedee, but the Pointed Stone's digging into the Whimsicott. Now, it is the Covert Cloak, which means that it would be, it wouldn't get hit by the, I mean, it would be super effective with a Dire Claw, but it wouldn't have to worry about the Poison, Paralysis, or Sleep as a secondary effect.
Yeah, now he can't task it with Dire Claw, although Dire Claw would just do a one-hit KO on it. Important note here, though, is even though all the speeds of the Pokemon are incredibly high right now, due to Whimsicott's Prankster ability, it's actually able to set Tailwind before anything else, which should match the Sneasler's speed to Adrian's on this side.
You are absolutely right on that, and we are going to see a Terrassalization come out on the side of Adrian here, and he's going to Terrassalize his Indeedee into that Fighting Terra.
Yeah, this is going to let him hit the enemy Sneasler, although it does still have that Spadef boost from the Psychic Seed, so honestly, I'm not sure how much this is going to do here.
We're going to see a Tailwind come up on the side of Whimsicott here, stack the Tailwind turns on this last turn, and it's going to be a Terra Dark Throat Chop into the Sneasler on the Indeedee, and it will not be very effective, but a Dire Claw will knock out that Whimsicott.
Now it's just a matter of seeing how much this Terrifying Terra Blast does to the Sneasler here. Has pretty good special defense, top of the Psychic Seed.
And here comes that Terra Blast. Will it do? How much damage will this do to the Sneasler? Well over 50%.
Another important thing to know is Adrian's Tailwind just ran out, so now Chris's Sneasler is the fastest thing on the board. Oh, and Typhlosion Hisui is now hitting the board as well.
So the fourth and final Pokemon for Chris was that Hisuian Typhlosion, but it's also important to note that Eruption now, even though it has the choice specs as its item, it still will be doing big damage, even though it won't be doing as much as it would be if it was at max HP.
What I will say here is that even though Chris does have Tailwind up, Adrian Sneasler is still faster due to that Unburden ability. I'm curious to see if he's going to throw a Throat Chop. Instead, he decides to play defensive and go for a Protect. Maybe scouting to see what the Typhlosion goes for.
We're going to see a Dire Claw come out into the Sneasler spot here. And Sneasler will end up protecting itself. In comes that Eruption, 75%, but the choice specs boost. I believe it will do enough to knock out this Indeedee here, and it will.
100%. That kills like 7 Indeedees. What I will say though is now Adrian gets to go back into Murkrow, right? So he can reset his Tailwind. Although I think this comes down to whether or not Throat Chop is gonna end up killing on this Typhlosion piece.
I wonder how as well, because if it does go for Throat Chop into the Hisuian Typhlosion, suddenly Typhlosion, the Eruption will not be doing any damage to either of these Pokemon, because Eruption is a move that does more damage the more HP you have. The less HP Typhlosion has, it doesn't want to take any Eruption.
Oh, none at all. What I will say though is that those rocks that were set at the very turn 1 of the game actually come into play here, because I don't think that Throat Chop normally kills. Due to the Stealth Archer, it does.
Yes, it does. The Throat Chop does come out and knock out the Typhlosion. A Dire Claw coming out into the Sneasler again, and there's the sleep!
Oh, the sleep is so bad.
Oh, the sleep is huge for Chris. He gets the sleep the one time that he needed the roll on the Dire Claw, and he gets the sleep. So Sneasler on Adrian's side has to take one guaranteed turn.
Yes, he does. The only lag I can see for Adrian here is he's probably going to go, I assume, Dire Claw into Murkrow. We'll see here, though.
We also do see that Sneasler goes, that the Sneasler on Adrian's side, it looks to be faster than Chris's with a Tailwind.
I'm curious to see if Foul Play picks up here, because Sneasler does have a pretty high attack stat. It is Terra Dark, though.
And it does!
Oh
my god, the Sneasler on Chris's side falls to the Foul Play. And well, unbelievable. Adrian comes back and wins game 1.
A slight misplay from Chris at the end there. If you go for the Dire Claw into the Murkrow, it does not have Protect. You can get a guaranteed kill with Dire Claw, and then assuming that the Sneasler does not wake up turn 1, you should have a guaranteed win there. I think he didn't see it, or maybe he just didn't expect Foul Play to kill there, so he decides to double into the Sneasler.
I think he definitely did, because as we saw on that last turn there, Caden, the Sneasler on Adrian's side, it moved first despite the sleep, because the Tailwinds were still up on either side. So it might have been possible that this was a speed tie.
It's possible. I think a lot of Sneaslers right now are max speed. These might be adamant mainly because of the Unburden boost, but even then they could still be the same speed stat because they are the same.
It very well could be here. And how about that Cleavor? It got the Stone Axe off on that first turn and managed to ensure that Typhlosion, while it did do some damage with Eruption, it wasn't doing as much damage.
Hey, I'll give it up. Cleavor put in the work. He did what he needed to do. He came in, he got his rocks, he broke Sash, and then he ended up putting Typhlosion Hisui in the late game into Throat Chop range. So you know what? I'd say that's the best you're going to ask for Cleavor there.
I would agree with that, because the Cleavor managed to do its job. It got out of a problematic position here. But again, Chris had of 3 Dire Claws in that game 1 that did not get a status condition. The one time it did, it got a sleep.
Yeah, the sleep was massive there. Unfortunately, he didn't quite capitalize on it on the way that he needed.
But we're going to see, will Adrian win this and move to 3-1, or will Chris force a game 3? Game number 2 is about to get started here as we're seeing a little bit of a switch up here from Chris. He is leading the Electabuzz and Blood Moon Ursaluna versus the Murkrow and Cleavor on the side of Adrian.
This is interesting because, truth be told, I think it's going to be a little hard for Adrian to break through this Electabuzz. He's going to be able to taunt it with the Murkrow here, but I don't really see how much damage Cleavor's going to be doing to Ursaluna, mainly because it actually resists both Stone Axe and X Scissor, the stab moves for Sneasler, or for Cleavor here.
It does resist the Stone Axe here, which would actually prevent the Cleavor from getting those Stealth Rocks up, which were very important in that game 1 to negate some damage on Typhlosion here. But I think we actually did just see that Adrian is opting to Terrastalize this Cleavor.
It's an interesting call. Sharpness boosted X Scissor is a lot of damage. Terra-Bug increases it even more, so we'll see how much it's going to do here.
We're going to see it here because there is that Terrastalization into Cleavor here. It becomes a pure Bug type for the remainder of this battle, which turns off its resistance to normal and makes it completely not very effective against the ground moves of that Ursaluna.
Indeed.
And in comes the taunt on the Electabuzz, turning off the Protect, Taunt, and Follow Me on the Electabuzz here. Here's Terra-Bug X Scissor with the Sharpness boost, and it almost knocks out Electabuzz in 1 hit!
So close there. Cleavor does live the Hyper Voice, but it's just not quite enough damage. What I will say here, though, is now that Taunt has been hit into the Electabuzz, it cannot follow me this Cleavor here, which is actually interesting because maybe it might be better that the Electabuzz lived, because now that it's still on the board, it's kind of a dead slot. It doesn't really do much here.
And we're going to see Ursaluna go for a Protect here, potentially trying to call a move into that. In comes a Tailwind here from the Murkrow, doubling the speed of the Cleavor and ensuring that it can go first here. The Stone Axe goes into the Electabuzz, knocking out this Electabuzz and setting up the Stealth Rock.
Yeah, Adrian calls it there perfectly. The Protect on Ursaluna is a little strange, because I feel like in that position you have a lot of opportunity to honestly kill or get rid of both the Cleavor and the Murkrow here, but unfortunately with the Protect he just calls it perfectly and goes for the Electabuzz Stone Axe.
He does, and he gets that KO, and he sets up the Stealth Rock, which turns off the Indeedee's immunity with the Focus Sash here if it was coming out. And in comes Sneasler. So Sneasler is the 3rd Pokemon for Chris, but it does take a little bit of damage due to those Stealth Rocks.
Exactly. And unfortunately for Chris here, since Indeedee's not on the board yet, then Sneasler is actually slower because he set Tailwind up last turn. So if he wants to outspeed the Cleavor here, he has to swap into Indeedee and break the Sash.
And he will switch out Ursaluna here. Is the 4th Pokemon that Indeedee? It is. So Indeedee comes out, and it will set the Psychic Surge and the Psychic Terrain after losing its Focus Sash due to those Stealth Rocks. But Sneasler getting that Psychic Seed and increasing its special defense by 1 stage.
Exactly. Although Chris has to be careful here, he decides to get rid of the Cleavor instead of the Murkrow. Although we learned last game, this Foul Play actually does quite a bit of damage, even resisted into the Sneasler, so I'm curious to see if Adrian went for it again.
He did go for the Foul Play, but it went into the Indeedee, and it knocks out Indeedee!
Yeah, now he has a huge Pokemon advantage here. This is going to be tough. Now with Indeedee gone, he has no way to deal with the Sneasler in the back.
He doesn't have any way to deal with the Sneasler in the back. However, Chris does still have the opportunity for Terrastalization on his side of the field. It could be this Blood Moon Ursaluna into a pure normal type, or it could be the Sneasler into a dark type again.
Honestly, I don't think either Terrastalizations are good for Chris here. Because with Sneasler, you have this close combat, and due to, oddly enough, the Stealth Rock chip, I think Ursaluna's in range, and Sneasler doesn't want to Terra to Dark either, because if you Terra, then you're again weak to close combat, so I'm really curious to see how Chris decides to play this one here.
I think it'll come down to, once again, those Dire Claw rolls, because the Sneasler on either side, they want to go for one of those status conditions, and at least on both sides there is a Pokemon that could get one of each 3. on Chris's side and Adrian, if they target each Sneasler, it would only be paralysis or sleep that you're going for. But we are going to see a terrestrialization on this Blood Moon Ursaluna. It is trying to power up those Hyper Voices and Blood Moon with that Terra Normal.
Here to see if Adrian decides to swing into it with the close combat, and he does this kill.
It does! The KO into the Ursaluna! So Sneasler loses a defense and its special defense boost from the Psychic Seed, but more importantly, Ursaluna is down! And Chris is down to his final Pokemon, that's Sneasler!
So Dire Claw doesn't get the status.
And there is no status. No status.
Do a lot of damage here. Ooh, almost 50%.
Almost 50% into that Sneasler here, but now the Sneasler is the only Pokemon left on the field, and Chris has decided to cancel the battle, and Adrian Herdia wins this set 2-0 and advances to 3-1 here at Versus Games.
Yeah, amazingly played by Adrian, able to use the fact that both Unburdened from Sneasler doubling its speed, but with Tailwind it speeds it up even again, up to like, I believe 4 times speed. So him having the fastest Sneasler just gives him the advantage in the mirror.
He definitely had the advantage there, but how about that Cleavor?
Cleavor wouldn't work.
I'm very impressed with how Adrian was able to pilot that Cleavor. He went with the Terra Bug. He actually risked his terrestrialization on a Pokemon that most of us probably wouldn't have in our own situation. We probably wouldn't have done Terra Bug on a Cleavor, but it did the work. It got the KOs that it needed, and it set up the Stealth Rocks to break that Focus Sash on Indeedee. That was massive in Game 2 for Adrian.
I think it was massive in both games. Game 1, the Stealth Rocks was able to chip down the Typhlosion, so it was in Throat Chop range. And in Game 2, it broke the Sash on Indeedee, so when it swapped in and took the Foul Play, it was just gone immediately. He couldn't do anything with it. I think had Chris been able to maybe prevent or just take down the Cleavor as fast as possible, he may have been able to have a bit of a better game plan, but it just was able to get Rocks up both times and he couldn't do anything.
And it's important to note that we didn't talk about this with that Cleavor. It was a clear amulet, so even if Chris went for that Electro Web, it would have done damage into the Cleavor, but it wouldn't have lowered the speed, which would have been helpful for Chris to be able to be faster than that Cleavor. And that was something that Adrian correctly identified in this set.
100%. In that game too, when he went for the Hyper Voice, it actually put Cleavor, I think, with only 20 hit points left. If he went for the Electro Web, I believe that picks up. So he wouldn't have had to deal with the Stealth Rocks and would have been able to bring that Sash Indeedee in, but unfortunately, it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just a little cynical part. Hisuian, Typhlosion, and Whimsicott. We did say that was a little exploitable.
Yeah, it's just because the lines with those two are very, very linear. You know what it's going to be. It's going to be Tailwind, it's going to be the Eruption. If your opponent has ways to either reduce Eruption damage without trading too much in return, it ends up being not that great of a strategy.
But honestly, after that set, Caden, I'm actually curious. What do you think the usage of our Pokemon are here? Because it is Regulation H, so we won't see any... well, I mean, I think I heard there was a Flutter Mane in Regulation H. I think I heard from a little birdie that there was a Flutter Mane in Regulation H.
It's called Rabombi.
Yes, it is.
Rabombi is the truth.
Yes,
Rabombi is the truth.
Rabombi is the truth, but I'm actually curious about what our usage is. Are you?
I would assume Sneasler has to be way up there. Yeah,
no. Oh, look at that! There. Look at that! Sneasler at 57% usage.
Yeah, and there's also some other interesting picks here. Ursaluna Blood Moon, it's been going up a lot in usage recently, and no surprise to see it here as well. On top of that, you also have Sinistra and Maushold Annihilate at the bottom there too. Very interesting picks from the players here today.
There definitely is. I mean, the Ursaluna Blood Moon, we have seen various Blood Moon Ursalunas. We've seen the Assault Vest, we've seen the Life Orb, but we've seen various terrestrializations. I think we've seen Water, Ghost, Normal, and Electric in 4 rounds.
There's a lot of different ways you can run the Ursaluna. I think that's what makes it so strong in this format. We've seen success with Life Orb, we've seen success with AV, and the most recent regional that happened won with Leftovers Terra Electric. So it's a very unique Pokemon the way that you want to build it and how you can slot it in on your team.
And I believe it had Yawn too, right? The Blood Moon Ursaluna?
It did. It was Yawn, that was a tech that was created at the very beginning of the format, and then it kind of fell off, but it was piloted success at Frankfurt earlier today.
You know what I am noticing though, at least in our top 12 usage? Where's Alolan Ninetales?
Nowhere to be seen, which I'm honestly surprised. Fun fact, we don't see any Weather Setter in the top 12 here at all. No Pelipper or Torkoal or even Tyranitar.
Honestly, I completely forgot about Torkoal. and I probably faced like 5 of them in the global challenge.
And it's interesting because the regional before Reg H ended, Toronto, something that was really cool is that the top 4 teams had all 4 weathers. You had Ninetales, Alola, you had Pelipper, Torkoal, and Tyranitar. So it's interesting to see that the players are starting to veer away towards weather and more towards Pokemon that can excel in the weathers themselves.
And that's honestly something, Caden. Like, I don't know how you are with your battling style, but at least with me, I'm not very good at actually using weather teams. I'm actually better at finding out a way to weather the storm.
Yeah, I can pilot them to an extent. The thing with weather teams is you're almost on a timer. Your teams typically is going to be built around the weather. Tyranitar and Ninetales to a lesser extent, but the Sun and Rain teams are all filtered around the weather. If you're able to stall it out, you can typically, again, weather the storm. You're not that worried about it. And it seems that the players here at today's Cup, they've decided to completely forego the weather and just go for more balance as comps.
And the irony of it all is that we're in Florida. We have sun and rain. When do you see sand or snow in Florida? I got you,
You
right
don't.
there.
You don't.
Yeah, you just don't. You just
I'm sorry. No sandstorms here. No sandstorms here. Snow, good luck. You're not going to get snow.
but maybe a trace in the panhandle area. Maybe a trace.
You get a little frost at the top, but outside of that, it's just mainly sun and rain here, neither of which we're seeing here at the top 12 usage.
No, we're not seeing any of that. And honestly, it would be nice to see if we do have any of them here, but that's a story for another time.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a quick break here from round 4 at the Versus Games League Cup. We'll be back with round 5 momentarily, so don't go anywhere.